Søren. We got your letter. Unfortunately, Marianne is sick in the hospital. So I wrote back and I said, I'm sorry to hear that Marianne is not doing well, but I'm glad that I found you. What I'm looking for is a letter of permission saying that I can translate her poetry and try and get it published. And also, I need copies of her books. I don't know how to find them. They've been out of print for so long. So a few more weeks went by, and I get another email. I'm sorry to tell you that Marianne died. But I will send you the letter that you asked for, and I'll get you copies of the books, but it might take me a little while. And I'm thinking, yeah, take as long as you need. You know? So several weeks go by, and I get a package with a letter of permission and a couple of books and a stack of papers. He had to Xerox copies of his own books because he couldn't find copies. And I immediately start translating them and sending them out, and they start getting picked up for publication right away. 22 of these poems have been published in various places, Stanford University, Columbia University, other places. So let me read one more for you. This was in the International Poetry Review. This is called Friday Evening in Acme. Acme is the name of a grocery store. All of them have someone to come home to. I can tell by their shopping carts that are bulging with security, belonging, and well-being. Neck chops on sale, dog food and munchies, weekend candy for the kids, a half-gallon of wine and baking potatoes, giant economy and family packs, diapers and French cheeses. Heavy, worn-down women with knit caps and striped bags. Brand-new mothers and bearded men. Authoritative wives, young couples, some without coats, so you can tell there's a car waiting out there, and they all have someone to come home to. And here I come with a pint of low-fat yogurt and half a rye bread. Naked as you only can be, Friday evening in Acme. It is embarrassing not being loved, and all of them can see it, and they don't believe that my husband is just on a trip and the kids with the grandparents for the weekend. I leave the line, grab a couple of steaks, a good bottle of wine, and a large rye bread, 3 pairs of men's socks, a dozen eggs, 2 bags of cookies, 10 condoms, 4 pacifiers, 40 diapers, a half-gallon of milk, a bottle of aftershave, and a pack of frozen unpeeled shrimp. It's going to be expensive. And then I've got to stand in line again. It's totally crazy, but it doesn't matter. Now it's like it's easier to look people in the eye. So that fall, I was in Denmark for the Copenhagen Book Fair, and I communicated with her husband, and we got together at his house. And we sat in their dining room, and he told me about their life together over some Danish pastries and tea, about how Marianne had taught English and Danish for 30 years. But after her first books, she suffered from emotional swings, like manic depression. And although she was able to keep her job still for quite a while, she could never write, really. And eventually, her mental instability hampered her work, and she was fired after 30 years. She then had a brain aneurysm followed by 3 strokes, and that's what put her in the hospital, unable to move or even breathe on her own without a respirator. And he told me that's when your letter came. And he said, I took it to the hospital, and I read her everything, the English and the Danish. Of course, she knew English very well. And he asked her what she wanted him to do. Should he give me permission and whatever? And she said yes, that she wanted him to do that for her. So he says he left the hospital, and he found out from his son that about 15 minutes after he left, their son arrived. They had one son, to check on his mother. And he went over to talk to her, ask her how she was, and from under her tubes and whatnot, she said, "Et brev kom." A letter came. And those were her last words. She lost consciousness and died shortly after that. Hearing this from Søren, I realized that being a translator, sometimes it's a lot more than just translating a book off the page, but that it can have a much bigger impact on a person's life. When I tell people that I came to become a translator after being a carpenter for 15 years, a lot of times they say that sounds pretty unusual. But I have figured that there is a connection for me. Sometimes I think of a Danish poem or a book as a Danish house. And in order to enter that house, you need the Danish key, which is the Danish language. Of course, I have the Danish language, so I can enter the Danish house and I can go into this work and look around and see how big it is, how expansive, how the light enters, the doors, the windows, what materials, how it's been constructed, the craftsmanship, the period, the mood. And then with my English language skills, I can go next door on the empty lot and work to recreate this with my English language, using the same dimensions, the same size windows and doors. The materials might not be exactly the same, but I'll try and find the ones that are as close as possible, that strike the right period, the right tone, the right mood, the right size. And then when the English language reader comes down the street, they can't go in the Danish house, but they can go in the English language house and have very much the same experience that the Danish language person has when they go into the Danish house. Now, of course, it's a lot of work to translate a book just like it is to build a house. And it's not just about building it, but also putting the time and energy into finding someone who would like to come and enter and stay for a while. So I want to thank you for being here today to enjoy that with me. So I'm